So welcome back after lunch. We're going to try something a little bit new here, and I hope it's a little bit interactive and lighthearted to keep you all awake after your big lunch. So we're going to present, as Richard said, we're going to have a number of panellists representing the different rooms. So these are the different activities that take place in buildingSMART International. I've asked them all within 5 minutes to present their goals, activities, participants, just a snapshot of each room. So we'll go through from 1 to 7, and then we'll have a few questions from my side, hopefully a little bit of panel discussion, and then we'll hand over to your good selves for your input. Now, when I was preparing this, I was thinking this is for a new audience, and I look around the room and I see lots and lots of familiar faces. So I would just like to know, so I'm going to sort of maybe adjust things slightly, but perhaps you could just indicate by putting your hand in the air if you are in fact new to buildingSMART or sort of relatively new. So, oh, that's pretty good. Okay, so I think probably at least 20%. Okay, so we're speaking to you. But I hope this is also... What about the old guys? Well, and our esteemed fellows as well. No, we want this to be a sort of a very inclusive. It's the intention was to sort of present to newcomers, but really it's also to have discussion across the rooms, which is really important because everyone's very much focused on their own area. So that's the format: short presentations, panel discussion, and then, of course, open questions. If you have burning questions during the panel discussion, please also raise your hand. I would like to start by introducing Richard Kelly. I don't have anything to introduce, but I'd welcome Richard Kelly back to the podium. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Well done. So, where's my zapper? There we are. So one of my roles is I lead the standards program, and in order to explain what that is, I'll just run through a few slides. First of all, why do we have a standards program? So what we're about as buildingSMART is enabling the digital exchange of requirements between all the different actors that exist in an asset's life. There are many different sorts of people and organisations involved in it. So this slide here is a way of describing how the data requirements fit into the data structure, and then how the requirements are then taken out of the data structure and used by people. And we have, within buildingSMART, a suite of standards, and they are known mostly by their mnemonics: the IDM, the IFC, the BCF, the BSDD, and the MVDs. And you'll hear much more about that this week from people who are better equipped than me to tell you about it. So in order to deliver these open standards, these open digital standards, we have an organisation, because it's all about professionalising how we do things within a predominantly a volunteer community. So we have a standards programme, and the standards programme is organised at the top with our standards committee. The Standards Committee is the body of people who are made up from our members and our chapters. So by being a member of buildingSMART gives you a vote on the International Standards Committee for when a standard is being developed. That is, the biggest opportunity for being a member. Obviously, that's quite a lot of people now. It's upwards of 70 because of the number of organisations and chapters we have as members. And we have a Standards Committee executive who is a body of people who meet regularly, who oversee what goes to the Standards Committee to ensure that it is robust enough to suffer the vote. And they are supported by a Standards Committee technical executive, who are the technical people in our community, many of whom are in this room today, who harmonise the technical aspects of what is being provided. Below the Standards Committee is the rooms. The rooms are the specialist domains that actually do the work, that actually produce the standards. And each room has its own remit. So you can see here we have building room, infrastructure room, product room, and technical room, who are very much technically focused. And then we have other rooms such as the regulatory and the construction, the airport room, who are more focused on the end user, the industry, And they work together in a collaborative way within our process. And the process summarised is that there are several stages to the development of the standard. It's a stage gate process that you would, if anybody's a project manager, you would recognise, where the standards committee gets a vote on the maturity of a standard as it passes through the process, and we have expert reviews, panels for each project as it goes through the process as well. So that's an abbreviated form of how the standards process works. The body of people that lead it are in the airport room. We've Alex and Rob. So we have each room has a chair, and each room has a project coordinator as well, and they have a standards steering committee, a room steering committee, which I'll explain in a moment. So in the airport, we've got Alex and Rob. Building, we've got Riccardo Bettini. Infrastructure, Christoph, Tina and Laura. In the construction room, we've got Kazumi Yajima and Ken Endo. Regulatory room is joint led by Even and Inhan. And product is Roger Grant, supported now by Zigve Pettersson, who is a product manager rather than project coordinator. And the room governance works such as, so we've got the standards committee executive, and then the room steering committees is up to 8 people for each room, comprising of a chair, a project coordinator, technical support, back to the SCTE, and 5 others who are elected from within the buildingSMART membership community. And the role of the steering committee is to create the room charter, what the room's all about, what it's supposed to be delivering, its ethics, a 2-year work plan, and we will be hearing some of the details of the 2-year work plan shortly from the room leaders, and project management coordination, so reviewing the dashboards and unlocking risks and issues and other things like that. And they are supported by a room administrator. So we have 2 room administrators. Laura Moll has a second role as a room administrator for the infrastructure room. She's also project coordinator. And we've just recruited Anna, who joins us in January, and she'll be the room administrator for the other rooms. So we're well equipped now to go forwards and deliver on all the projects that we need to do in order to improve our suite of standards. So that's me. Is that 5 minutes?
That's sensational. Yes. Good. Richard Kelly, thank you very much for that introduction. Very apt, as it gives an overview and a bit of an introduction to the following panellists. So next, representing the airport room, I'd like to invite Alex Warp to the podium. Thank you, Alex.
Well, thank you. We're probably the youngest room at buildingSMART in correlation with the construction room, so we keep it short. One of the needs we have as airport room is to get more committed airports to join us to develop our open standards that we are missing in the IFC, and the standard that we can use through the whole life cycle of our assets. How can we work more efficiently, because we know that all airlines are in need to make cheaper flights like the new broader airport. So we think we need to work more efficiently as airports, and I think IFC, the open standards of buildingSMART, can help us achieve that, because we can make accurate information data exchange through the whole life cycle. So the goals for here this coming week is to link with the buildingSMART standards widely, make sure that we make a processes that will work with the processes for buildingSMART and make more achievement. And so that through the whole life cycle, our airport asset managers can work more efficiently. And one other thing is, of course, not all airport assets are in IFC at the moment. So we should try to get what is missing, what do we need as airports, and how can we get them in the other rooms applicable that we will design in. And what better place to discuss and exchange experience of working with OpenBIM. So these are the few airports that we have on the moment on the list that will want to join us and are very interested in the airport room. So we hope to, next time in Paris we have a longer list even than this one. And the activities at the moment we are in progress. We hope to finish our working document this summit and then make work plans for what we will do the coming year. Okay. In the short.
Good. Thank you very much, Alex. Well, we're going to be well ahead of time. Next, representing the Infra room, I'd like to invite to the podium Christophe Gastel.
Okay, so presentation of the infrastructure room. The mission, I think that we are under the control of Patrick. We are in charge to change the world. It's not totally a joke. We're in charge when we initiate the project on infrastructure room to extend the standard of IFC, not for only the building, but to have a view of a full modeling of what does it mean in infrastructures. And that means that we want to extend the schema of IFC, but also linked with the impact of the works of infrastructure with the others, like environmental issue, rolling stocks, a connected system, and so on. So that means that in the extension of IFC, we are also in touch with OGC to extend GML, but also with the others like STEP or PLCS and so on. So that's the mission and the scope where we are. And a view of what does it mean is with this picture of different projects like bridge, road, rail, tunnel, harbor. And if you have a look about each this picture, which are nice, but not only, they are nice, but you have a look of what does it mean. In each case, you have this connection of the works with the environmental issue or with connecting to object or with system and so on. That is the complexity of where we are. That's the reason we have this ambition to not only to model the works, but the environmental, and in certain way, we are modeling the world. And the second aspect of this room is the impact of the stakeholders with the project. All the project are managing by the stakeholders. And that is also a big impact of what does it mean, the extension of OpenBeam. Now, we have the stakeholders involved in the extension of the schema with the impact also on the software vendors. And I want to underline under this list of stakeholders, we have the chapters on the right, on the left, but on the right you have stakeholders. What we can say at this moment, with this project starting, well, I mean, if you have mine, for instance, coming from France, you have both the three main contractors of the world, except China, with Vinci, Bouygues, and Eiffage. With the engineers, we have Aegis, my company, plus Sistra is the first engineers in the world for railways, and you have big and so on. So that means that, and then you have big company, big operators like SNCF, like Deutsche Bahn. You have CRB Allianz. So we are really the real world involved to manage the standards, and you have also the software vendors. Then the impact. Already, I'm going to see what we have already done. We have, I want to underline that, which is very important. We have some results already with the alignment and IC 4.1. And what I want to underline at this moment that it's already available for the software vendors to be able to implement this part of the IC for the end user. We have some we have some results with the technical report about infra and asset management done by Phil Jackson. And I recommend to everybody to have a look about this report. It's a very important report with a large view, and it's very interesting and useful. And we are working about the question of integrated digital built environment. That means that we are looking about the roadmap commonly with OGC and buildingSMART. And the more important thing is what we are going to deliver. And the question is, we are working about different projects, rail, road, bridge, tunnel, and harbor, to be able to deliver, as the Chinese are requesting, as soon as possible, and as soon as possible it could be the beginning of 2020s, to IFC 5. That means that we are going to deliver at this horizon 2020 or 2021, something very important for the software vendors to be implemented in their software, to have this standard available for the end user. That's the roadmap and our activity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christoph, for that overview. There's obviously a huge amount of work going into the infrastructure room, and I appreciate you condensing it down there to 5 minutes. It's sensational.
Time, so it's a challenge of the day.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. And next, representing the building room, I'd like to invite Riccardo Bettini to the podium. Thank you, Riccardo.
Thank you, Mark. I'll try to be also short. Let's see how it works. Okay. Well, I'm chairing the building room, as you know, but my main role is in Infra as head of innovation, and something that I try to do here in the building room is to give a pragmatic view of IFC open standards. I think that's generally what we need also from the industry to give us some examples, uses, and guidance. So in terms of needs and goals of the building room, as you can imagine, we are part of buildingSMART, so there are specific domains in buildings, infrastructures, and regulations, and specifically building rooms is for buildings, as you can imagine, and looking for that interoperability between all the different systems. So we are looking for that seamless data flow, so where we can do effective decision making, and also looking for very efficient information management. So that's the two key things that we are trying to look. The scope, so we can think in buildings of, we could think of hospitals, schools, houses, etc. But as you can see, the connection between the other rooms. So if we think about an airport, that's what I was going to say. So airport, there's going to be a mix of infrastructure, but also in terms of work with the airport room, the things that we need to coordinate. In terms of participants, so I have listed here all the people that are part of the building room steering committee. We meet once every month. Mark is also involved here. He always helps a lot. And so we have the Nordic chapters, Spanish chapter, US chapter, so you can see all the chapters there that are involved. In terms of key activities, I have listed there the projects that we are involved. So on the top, the ones that have more progress. So like, for example, the MVD model setup. So it's about coordination, like site coordination of models. MVD quantity takeoff. So you can think anything about measurements, energy simulation. LLX, so it's all about level of development and level of information. Now, very recently, we are looking into IFC Rebar and precast. These are examples of how transverse this is with the other rooms, and specifically with the infrastructure room. And also the last one there is the Coble to handover. So basically, this is the summary of the build room. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Riccardo. Good, and now to give an overview of the construction room, I'd like to invite Ken Endo from Kejima Corporation.
Hello, mate. I love UK, so I want to say the hello, mate, to you, anyhow. I want to celebrate 1 year birthday of construction room today, because our room just started, and also airport room started 1 year ago at the Jeju in Korean summit meeting. So we are still the young, new the room. So I just want to explain what we do and what we want to do in the future. Needs and goals. Our method is accumulate and then share use case of applied BIM. And those three below are the scope of the construction room. Interoperability between BIM, IT, IoT, and manufacturing. And virtual design and construction, it's at the VDC. And productivity, cost study of BIM project. First one is quite technical. What is the listed? BIM, IT, and IoT, and manufacturing. I think if all those technical issues is connected and glued, the many domain also will be the glued. It means it's not only in the construction, the domain, but the IFC should have used for in many industries. So we try to focus on all those technical issue and also the domain, the both sides. In terms of the participants, we have many. Some Japanese companies and Korean companies. All those are from the Jeju conference. And the rest are mainly the European and the USA companies. All those were attended from the last Barcelona summit. Thanks for many persons. We had many colleagues at this moment to share all the knowledge and insight between us. And the activities at this moment is like this. BIM platform, it is at the CDE. It was quite new at the Barcelona summit, but now it's the normal nature of the BIM world. And we are facing to that many CDEs at this moment. And then the wondering if which we should take and adapt to the project. So it's quite rapidly changing, the technology side is. So we want to adapt the new things and then to BIM and to expand the use and the consume of BIM data. So next one is the 4D BIM. Synchro is the name of the company, which they will make the presentation in our session in this London summit. And the next one is XR, including the VR, AR, MR. All those devices are quite cheaper, and then we put those devices and gadgets to the project site. So now we are researching with the Microsoft and Google the HoloLens, using HoloLens and Tango device. And the next one is BIM data distribution. And then there's a brand new keyword in this construction domain, blockchain. It's not only the cryptocurrency data exchange, but it can be used in the construction domain also. So we start to think about using it in the supply chain and logistics in the construction site. Rest one is the IoT BIM. It has quite big possibility and potential, I think so. It's brand new, and the data of the IoT is getting bigger and bigger. So we should rethink and reconstruct our production system as if it is now, and we can use it. So IoT and BIM connection will be our new target. So we emphasize this theme in the London session. Last one is still IFC. It is the domestic activity in buildingSMART Japan. We define the still IFC internally helping by Mr. Adachi. And then ask some vendor of the steel CAD vendor, software vendor, to use that IFC and then adapt steel IFC to their software. So that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ken Endo. The next topic is the product room, and I'd like to invite Roger Grant to the podium. Thank you, Roger.
Thank you, Mark. Hello, everyone. Here to tell you about the product room, what we're up to. You've heard a little bit of our activities already today, but just to give you some overview of what we're trying to accomplish, the product room is focused on how we can share terminology that describes the things that we want to put into our models in a consistent way so that we can connect to all of the information that's out there in the world that we can't necessarily put inside of every model that we create. So there's standards, there's product data, there's references that we want to connect, and there's also information inside of other kinds of systems. We focus a lot on networking within our group. When you'll see our projects, you'll see that we have a wide range of projects and organizations, and I think it's been very useful to see what the problems that people are trying to solve, and to see that they're really the same across all the different countries and organizations that participate. And so it's really our responsibility to figure out how to not duplicate effort and waste resources. So that's a big advantage of getting together into a room to work on things. Of course, the main focus is using the IFC model and taking the things that are in IFC language, but exposing them to all the other languages that we use in a way that we can connect and make meaning out of it. I think most of us don't really look at what IFC relates object is or something, but we know there's something in there that is useful to us, IFC flow control device. And we're trying to do that in a large part to connect the products that go into the buildings and infrastructures that we create to the models in a way that we can efficiently use the information about them when we want to use it, where we want to use it, and how we want to use it. Again, extending what we're doing with IFC. And to accomplish that, we've been working with the buildingSMART data dictionary as an implementation that we can use to help achieve the objectives that we have for sharing information about things, and how it supports an ISO standard 12006 Part 3. The product room has a number of participants from really around the world that are interested in this topic and are collaborating together to work on how do we exchange information. I only have a few of their logos. Pardons to anyone whose logo I didn't have to put on there, but there are a number of organizations that have been involved in this, and we have organizations that both participate out of interest and learning and trying to advance their efforts, and we also have organizations that are actively conducting projects. So this is our list of active members. Many of them are here and will be in our room, and there's many other organizations that are interested that may not be on there. I'll be happy to add you to the list in the next meeting. And finally, the activities that we have underway, we have some common projects that the room is undertaking. I mentioned the data dictionary. We've been looking after its infrastructure. Christoph, not your world, but the software and the API and how it all works. And we have a tool that we make available. And then we are working on how do we connect the data dictionary and IFC together in a complete and consistent way so that we can support the specification of exchanges. In my mind, that's a real shared job that we all have, is how do we define exchanges efficiently and effectively. So we've been looking at how do we connect the IFC documentation that's delivered in the IFC doc tool with the BSDD in a seamless, automated way, a digitized way. We're going to share that in our session tomorrow. We've been working on that. And also just how do you determine, again, like I said, IFC flow control device. That could be a fan, it could be a valve. Someone has to figure out from a domain standpoint that those things are the same thing and determine how that goes together. So that's a lot of what we try to do, working collectively in the product room, both by ourselves and through reference to other standards. And then these projects that our members undertake, while they're not buildingSMART official projects, they're very important to the function of the room because they actually show us problems that organizations are trying to solve. How do you use classification along with models, and how's a good way to introduce that and exchange it, for example? Or how do you create a national context that can be used nationally to define properties of building products? So the member projects bring that to our room, and there's a wide range of very good organizations working with us. Thank you.
Roger Grant, thank you very much. And finally, I'd like to invite Irvin Ruth to the podium to talk about the regulatory room. Thank you, Irvin. Yeah, just...
Okay, thank you. I'm representing the regulatory room here today. I was asked the needs and goals of this room. Myself, I represent the Norwegian building authorities. That means that regulatory body in each country have that make the building codes and regulate how you allow to build or maybe not how to build. We have tried to have a common basement to discuss in this room, so we have developed, or still developing maybe, some kind to describe the process. So we have said here the construction process, very high level. You ask for concept design, you make a construction design, and you construct. And the building authority process that you need to apply for a concept approval, a building approval, and a construction approval maybe. This differs a little bit from country to country. But the main issue and the need for the building room is today. You can digitize as much as you want in the industry. If you not have the regulatory with you, all these processes will be paper, or maybe they find it a good way to do something totally different. You never know. And they have the power to do what they want to do. So it's important to have the building authorities with you to have the seamless workflow. And I can tell you that is not easy, and that is the idea with the regulatory room, find a way to do this, to make it seamless also with the regulatory processes, not only within the value chain in the construction process. So, we have defined this regulatory room. It has been here for a while. It's not very easy to have the regulators out of their office, so we are not many. We have research institutes with us. So many of them do a very great job. And we have software vendor with us, interesting software, but it's very difficult to have the regulators on board. So please help us go home and ask them participate. They should be here. But the idea first is not very dangerous for them. It's only a place that we want to meet and share information and try to understand the needs and what the need of standardization. We have a steering committee. I'm co-chair with Dr. In-Han Kim. He's somewhere here, I believe. From Kyung-hee University in Korea. We have a quite interesting project on how to do this and systems as well, doing e-permitting in Korea and e-plan check. We have a working group dealing with e-submission, Masaki Mutu, who is on the balcony here, from Japan. And we have from working group 2, Nick Nisbet, here from UK. We will meet regularly to discuss and prepare for these meetings here. We have had presented projects from Singapore, Hong Kong, Norway, Sweden, Estonia, Iceland, Slovenia, UK, China, Korea, Japan, Milan, and so on. So there is a lot going on out there. And I have been spoken to a lot of people working inside the regulatory government system across Europe and outside Europe, and they are starting to understand there is something going on that might have something to do what we do. So it's starting to happen something. And this will not this is continue, this process. So the activities we have is, first of all, we have this Tuesday afternoon, what we call a sharing information session where government regulatory bodies, research institute and software vendors are invited to share information regarding e-permit and automated code checking. We have a list of people who want to share some information. If there is someone in the room who wants to share something but we don't know about them, please contact me and you can, we find some few minutes where you can show and share some ideas. We have on Wednesday, we have the common e-submission guidelines where we discuss and about the e-submission process. We also want to go a little bit deeper into the technologies behind those who really have something, because there is some countries who have quite advanced systems out there. And we also want to present the report we had on automated code checking on Wednesday morning. Which is we now have published as an, or is it published? Is it published? The report from regulatory. Next week? Okay. Soon publish a report from a regulatory room about a common format, how we can open up for automatic code checking. I think that was all from me.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So it seems I'll be standing. I miscounted. But thank you, gentlemen, very much for the presentations. I'd like to start maybe with a general question that any of you could answer. So what are some of the challenges that you're facing in your individual rooms? I mean, I know there's a sort of a common challenge is buildingSMART with the sort of, a lot is done on voluntary basis. Perhaps you can speak about common challenges or specific challenges that you're faced with in your rooms. And there are microphones down on the tables, I believe.
I picked it up, so I guess is it on? Yeah. Well, I think we all share a common challenge. You sort of mentioned it, of getting the volunteers, but it really, I think, comes back to how do we get the right users into the room to let them know of the things that they can accomplish. I think in my work, I've worked with owner organizations a lot, and they don't appreciate the dimension of their challenges and the benefits that they can achieve. We heard more about that, but I think it comes down to all of the rooms that is a problem with our constituent groups. A challenge, I should say, an opportunity.
Yes, I can give you an example for rail, the kind of challenge you have to manage. And I'm going to use the image given to me by Michael, my colleagues from Traffic Verket. In rail, even in each country, it's very difficult to have all of the engineers of each domain speaking together. So even in one country, it's difficult. So imagine what you have to do to create a consensus from engineers coming from China, from Germany, from Sweden, from France. Maybe sometimes we will have some people coming from UK, but I mean, that is a big challenge. To create this consensus in a worldwide range in order to be able to create this standard. I mean, something impossible, and we'll try to do that. It's a big challenge.
I think another big challenge is to get what the priority from the industry is. So what we need to work on. And I think thinking also of the technology side, the software companies, so the work they have to do, so that I think that part of collaboration they have to do, I think is a big challenge.
Yeah, for me, I also in charge of R&D, and then the way of the research and development should be changed, because that it's quite challenging theme. If you adopt quite new technology like artificial intelligence or some IoT project, so the many IT company that start to say the POC, proof of concept. So just I want to try to facilitate and moderate the POC project, the small start and make it bigger.
I could also imagine that there's a challenge between, I mean, I think it was also suggested that between the sort of the technical side and the user side, Christoph, you were saying, you know, getting the engineers to the table to get their inputs is one thing, but then also to get that technical aspect, how do we find a solution? And those people are not always the same. There's either someone who's strong in user and the strong on the sort of solution side. Is that also a challenge for the different rooms?
Well, maybe I can answer that one. I think that one of the challenges as clients to see the benefits of OpenBIM. We are to start each project starts with the client. So I think it's very important to get more clients involved in the OpenBIM standard, so that we prescribe them to each project, so that we can pull instead of try to push. We are airport are pushing F-Triple to get OpenBIM working. But I think it's really hard, very important to get more clients involved in these organizations as an end user, and show them the benefits we can achieve if you start from the start of the project to the end, till you demolish it again. That the exchange of information is much easier if you use OpenBIM.
And Kemp and Mark Bew touched on it this morning and showed that slide that had what people are what the industry is talking about, what the industry is reading about. What the industry is writing about, and BIM was a standalone thing, so you know companies are not yet digitally enabled, and I think a lot of them haven't understood the size of the prize yet. Mark Bew was trying to show us that with some of the slides this morning. I came from industry, and the reason I came to buildingSMART was because I think it has the answers to what a lot of the clients and the industry users need. But our challenge is to communicate that across in a way that people understand, so that then they can join in and help us develop the solutions. Because we are actually all about, you know, our users and our members, you know, joining in and working with us to develop the, you know, what the industry needs for itself.
Yeah, Richard, my question for you was going to be, well, it still is, I guess, the relationship of buildingSMART to the other standards organisations. But you brought in another really interesting point, which is, so maybe you could first speak about that, and then secondly, the relationship of buildingSMART to sort of user organisations or industry associations. So one side is the standards, and the other side is, yeah.
So the standard organisations such as ISO and CEN, we have a formal agreement with. And actually many of the members of buildingSMART are also active in ISO and CEN. I see people in the audience here, Elizabeth's here, thank you, and Shalivar are also very active. So we have this formal agreement that, you know, a buildingSMART standard will get developed up into be an ISO standard and then goes on to be a CEN standard. In fact, I think 3 of our standards are now CEN standards. Regarding the relationship with user organisations, there I'm struggling. I suppose it's you know, we have associations with the formal national, what do you call them, initiatives. So there's a supply chain initiative in Germany, Planbau 4, which, you know, part of our German-speaking chapter are active in. Mark Bew was here today from Digital Built Britain, and you know, UK BIM Alliance and Kemp and people like that. There's all associations there, and there are other activities going around the world. Korea has an initiative. Christoph, you're active with the French initiative as well. You pronounce it for me.
I'm in the French chapter, of course, but we have also an organization coming from the bottom, coming from the engineer, coming from the contractor, coming from the manufacturing, and then that we are really pushing the activity, even if you have not a government plan. That is a reverse to the proposal.
Are there any others I've missed, panel?
Well, I guess also chapters is sort of a user engagement.
Of course,
and,
chapters are what drives our requirements.
Yeah.
Chapters drive the requirements, then chapters use the outcomes. Yeah, that's an essential part of the circle. I think we're all quite well aware, actually, that unless clients and governments mandate what we want, what we're doing, that's when the world will change.
Roger.
Just to add in there, the connection of the chapters is important to us in the product room in the language translations and how do we use the different names for things consistently, how we figure out the role our chapters can play in a consistent way, help us do that across the whole organization. Something we need to do.
Irvin, I have a specific question for you. This, code checking seems like a really obvious and innovative way of using sort of model-based working. But we've heard about it for a long time. I mean, Singapore was there, engaged for a long time. What are the challenges there, and when are we really going to see it? I mean, obviously there's very different countries involved, but when will this be a reality?
Yeah. First of all, Singapore have had the system since 2004. Right. There is a system in Korea and other places, but all of this system is hard-coded. It's easy to have, maybe, not easy, but you may have finance to build up the project or system, but you don't then get any finance to maintain it. So what we are looking for now and discussing in the regulatory room is to find a way to split the regulation out of the software, because today it's hard-coded in the software, I can just take an example from Norway. The last time we had an update of the regulation last year, we have talking for 15 years to the government that you need to give the software time to implement the regulation. They gave them 2 months. That is impossible, So we need to have a system where software can update. The rule checking engine should be in the market and can support whatever they want and have their updating and maintenance cycles. And you have the regulation who have their updating and regulation independent of each other. So. And then also bring down the total cost of this. I think the technical is not that far away, but we need to describe it and agree how to do it. So there is some standardization work, I think, much be done.
And if I could simplify the sort of the work of the regulatory room, is that to sort of come together as a working forum to help solve these problems, or is it more that you're trying to find a sort of a standardized way of doing things in different countries for code checking?
We need to, the code should be different, but the way to do it should be more or less the same, or else we need to invent the wheel in every country. And that is not supporting the only one who earn money is these consultants companies and software vendors maybe. We need to have a standards way how to do it. The software should be a market, but the regulation of course should be different. We need to find this, and then we need to bring this together and talk about it.
I'd like to open up questions if there are questions from the audience. Do we have the mic still floating around? Yes, we do. I got them on the fly there. So are there questions now?
My name is Alan from Dublin. We heard this morning and again this afternoon that to digitise is to standardise. That's the big message. To what extent are international governments committed to Open BIM? Because you talked about clients, the key. The government clients, the key. I mean, a day doesn't go by when you don't hear about some digital roadmap or digital transformation program, whether it's UK or whatever. So, to what extent are international governments committed to Open BIM? And who is leading the way? And how are they going to bring other governments along? Because it is an international initiative after all.
Who's that? I can speak for what's going on in the United States with internationalization efforts. I would say that the U.S. government doesn't have a central organization that is leading the charge for open BIM. Each of the agencies of the government is on their own to do that. I think they're very committed to open procurement so that they're not locked into working with one set of products. So that's a strong motivator. Another strong motivator is putting their information into a way that it can be reused in the future, and again, not having it tied into one set of platforms. So it's a little bit indirect. The motivators are there, and they're strong, and there's action taking place, but it's not coordinated and connected in a national program like we saw from the UK today. And I think both ways can work.
Are there other thoughts on the panel regarding open BIM and government mandates?
In Spain, for example, it has been created the BIM Commission, I think it was 2 years ago, Sergio, 2 years. And so there is a full support from the Ministry of Transport. Even in the last summit in Barcelona, we have the presence of the ministry. So I think similar to what is happening here in the UK. So we have that push, and you can see that in the market.
We have a French plan, but the idea is not to create any regulation about that. So the French plan is oriented to support the effort to help all of the industry to move for the BIM. So, I mean, we have some results, but in another hand, we can say that a bad result because we say BIM for everybody, for everything, and that means that we have no sequence of how to move forward to BIM. So that is, in one hand, the industry is pushing, and in the second hand, there is no hierarchy of what we want to move to BIM. So that means that, for instance, we have at the moment, no will to go to anything regarding the regulatory room, for instance. So that is difficult to say that, because we have also what Anne say, that the construction industry is very large, with 80% of the construction industry is for small or very small. So the
transformational change won't come unless international governments come together and make the commitment to open BIM. And then it's a no-brainer then. I mean, suddenly many countries will adopt open standards. Surely that's the way.
Well, you see in the Netherlands, we also do it from bottom up. We have a BIM loket, Jacqueline is in the behind design, who is lobbying at the government to get the government more involved, to use open BIM standards and make it applicable to sharing information. But it's all bottom up.
And I think we are the organisation where the governments come together to make it happen. You know, on this stage we have 7 different nationalities. I don't include myself because I'm international. Within the audience we have representatives from over 34 different nations, many of whom are governmental representatives. So I think we are the organisation.
Just also, if I talk from Europe here, in Europe, the European Standardization Organization, CEN, has adopted IFD and all the buildingSMART standard, and is developing standard. All CEN standards has to be national standards, so you have to redraw any competing standards. So in that sense, the buildingSMART standards is flowing out and into each country, and then of course it's more easy for the national government and maybe the EU Commission, for all I know about, to build some policy on top of it to more push it into the industry.
I'm going to play the devil's advocate a little bit. So we've built open standards. We can see that coming from the standards body, ISO, CEN, and that would become mandated. We can understand governments wanting the openness. But now for the infrastructure room, for the airport room, for the construction room, I mean, what's the reality? Like, why, you know, if we look at the infrastructure room, IFC for rail is some years away, then it has to be implemented in the software, then it has to be certified. Are some of the big owners saying this is going to be too hard? Why the big corporations staying with it? That's first for you, please. Yeah.
I mean, where we are at the moment, we have already some progress. Could be used by the end user if it is implemented by the software vendor. So the first issue at the moment is to work properly with a good communication and make more effort on communication with the software vendors to be able to implement as soon as possible the progress we have already. I already used this picture last time in Barcelona to say that with IC alignment, which is already available, we can have a huge progress in design, in contract review, if it is implemented by the software vendors. So that, because that means it's a huge progress to explain for the project manager what does it mean BIM, and how it could be useful to manage a contract. So I think that that's the challenge, and what we have to, even to make some improvement from buildingSMART to be able to explain more clearly and progressively in time with the software vendors what does it mean, the roadmap, and how to implement step by step the progress we have developed in IC.
Can I add to that? I think one approach to getting adoption is through standardization and work and having a strategy to have standardization drive adoption. Another is through just working on helping owners to deal with open procurement and deal with future-proofing of their information and show them that what we offer helps them to do that. So that doesn't absolutely require it to be standardized, just open.
Yeah, okay, very good. Are there further questions in the audience? Is this one still working? Sorry. Great opportunity to ask the questions. Okay, Roger, I have another question for you, sort of changing topic a little bit. So we've, I mean, the product room has really been, I'd say, a hothouse of innovation. So many great things are coming out of it, and now we have something very concrete with the buildingSMART data dictionary. What's next? Are there going to be more products coming out from buildingSMART, or is buildingSMART going to focus on just, I don't know, inspiring and innovating the industry? What's the roadmap?
As Siggy showed our strategy and roadmap for the data dictionary, I think we probably feel like we have a lot of work to do to get the things that we have developed implemented and stand them up and have them pay their own way. I mean, let's be realistic about all this. It's nice, but so far we're not, we scramble to have the resources we need to do everything, so we have to gain adoption, and that means we have to show how things can be implemented. So I think that's really our main focus, as opposed to continuing to develop. It's how do we seek, how do we get implementation and the support that goes along with that, and solving those real problems for owners.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Just I want to add to Roger, because I think that BSDD is really something very key. And we are starting in IceBridge to populate, we are going to populate the BSDD. That means that you have already 2,000 properties available to be implemented in BSDD to compare with the existing. And we are going to do the same for rail, for road, for tunnel. So that means that we are really at the beginning of the story with that. So that the next step is this one, to be able to have this comparison of the different properties existing for, I mean, a beam, not beam, but beam, concrete one. What does it mean for a bridge? What does it mean for a building, and so on? And it's a really big challenge, and that's what we are. And I think that we are at the beginning of the story.
Yeah, I think that's from a personal point of view, it's a very, very excellent motive to have, not just to sort of put new innovation in the industry, but to really see that it's kind of being adopted and used and follow, sort of accompanied. Yeah, thank you. Ken, please, yeah.
Yeah, I met the guy, the GS1. It's the standardization organization for barcode and then RFID mainly. And then they said it's quite big challenge, but there's big possibility. The connecting with the BSDD to the barcode solution. So I guess if it is used for the logistics or real world, I guess there's many the chance for the further the usage of the BIM data. So I guess it's just beginning.
Yeah. I have a sort of another general question. Could you maybe talk about the collaboration between the different rooms? I know at the summits we have these kind of shared sessions. Do these collaborations, do they continue throughout the year? Where are the sort of the touch points?
Well, I think from the airport room, this is the first session this summer that we'll share knowledge with the other rooms. The first time we have collaboration sessions here. So I hope and I think that we'll collaborate more the next coming year and try to find each other more often than instead only at the summits. To exchange information and to change our user experience, especially.
We've got two different sorts of rooms now, haven't we? We've got the industry rooms and we've got the technical rooms. And it's important that those two rooms collaborate because they're serving slightly different needs. It's about process, in that we have a process in place, the standards program process, which allows that to happen. But it's not just about processes, it's events like this and the other meetings we have during the year, which are the real benefit, the real thing that Building Smart's all about. It's getting together and collaborating face to face.
We also have to remind that all the room leaders is meeting virtually every month and share updating information. That is quite useful for us to take back to the rooms and discuss further, that we know what's going on in the other rooms. So there is sharing.
About the room, maybe I have to give an information. We are going to discuss on tomorrow if we are the way to create a new room for AFC rail, for rail. But that means that what does it mean? It means that I think that until now the experts from each domain are a little bit frustrated to not be able to give their feedback about what it is needed. And I think that first of all, buildingSMART is there to give the possibility for the expert to provide their requirements. That is very important to underline. And then that also the second topics for buildingSMART is about to be able to transverse, to be able to give the possibility for each domains to be able to share the information, because what is important in the infrastructure project is we have to share the information in any case. Yeah. So that means that you have this double objective is to be able to organize vertically the expertise of each domain to be able to share the information in a horizontal way.
Did you, Roger? No, sorry.
Well, we collaborate with the Infra room already and the building room on exchange specifications and how we can extend those and connect them to external data about products and reference standards. And so the only regret is there's not quite enough time in the day to do all of it, but there's lots of good opportunity to work across the rooms, definitely.
Ricardo,
yeah, I think.
Oh, yes, sure. Do we have a microphone?
I think collaboration is key for all the rooms, and when, for example, when we have been meeting to organize these summits, there has always been a desire to have joint sessions, and we have discussed to have that balance between joint sessions and the sessions for each room. And now we've got in the building room the IFC Rebar and Precast. I think that's going to be a good example of how we coordinate with the other rooms, specifically with you, Christoph. So again, that's key.
Thank you, Peter.
Yeah, I'm Peter Muick from Austria. When we talked about collaboration, I just want to add another important aspect from my point of view, that we also need to collaborate with the software vendors and the software implementers. So for example, when we define something within CEN, how we want to transport product data, how we can do it in IFC and using IFC XML or whatever, it's important that we tell the software vendors and the people from implementation to look at this and see what we need, because if we just define our concepts and nobody implements them, wouldn't help anybody. So it's also important to collaborate with the software implementers. That's what I would like to add.
Yeah, very good point. Thank you. Are there further questions from the audience? So we're actually, I just noticed the time went so quickly. It's, it was a lot of fun. Thanks for being here. Perhaps I can just leave you with one short question, or maybe you would like to make a statement. What would you like to say to the audience as a sort of a closing statement for each of you? I don't have any microphones left.
Should I start? Oh, no, I was thinking. Now, a closing statement from the regulatory room. That is, please go home and ask your government bodies to participate in the regulatory room, because they need to follow what's happening in the industry. They need to be close, or else they just lag behind.
Well, I think in the product room, our challenge is to do our job so well that you don't know that we have done it. It's going on in the background, but then we need to have the right people involved to make that happen. As Peter pointed out, we need the software community, we need the owners telling us what they need, and we need the content providers. So I guess it's maybe a common appeal to get the right people to help us do things, but that's what we need to advance our effort in the product room.
Yeah, for me, that I want to enlarge the frequency to the shared information with you, and then so that we just open the LinkedIn group, construction room group on LinkedIn. So someone who wants to join, please come to me to contact. Thank you.
Yeah, something I would like to get from this week is to get feedback from the audience in a way that how we can make this simple. We should make it simple. Otherwise, it's never going to work.
Yeah, very good.
What I want to underline is that buildingSMART is a good investment. I think that everybody has to understand that it's a way to save money, to come to work together, because in any case, everybody is going to reinvent the wheel, company by company. And we save a lot of time and money in discussing together and to provide one and unique specification to the software vendors. It is also the best way to obtain satisfaction from the software vendors if we are able to write with the unique specification.
Well, I would like to say to everybody, look in other rooms than you're normally visiting and share your experience with the uses of OpenBIM and IFC. And especially if something is not working, tell the people here, all the rooms, what they should try to improve to make IFC a better tool.
Yeah. Thank you.
I like the point Roger made that it should just be that you don't even know we're doing it. OpenBIM should just be the way things are done around here for most industries. So that's the main message, I think, is that just get everybody to join in, because the size of the benefit is huge. But I also just need to, I think, make a formal thanks to all our room leaders and the steering committees of those rooms, the people that work in them, because they do give a lot of their time for nothing. It's a passion for them, and I'm very grateful to you on behalf of buildingSMART for all the time that you give.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.